Your friends, your friends. Radio friends again. Radio friends again. We've got a lot to share.
Oh, welcome to another edition of Radio Friends again, September 5th, 2025. And I'm Steve Parker here in Berlin, Connecticut. We had a little bit of rain overnight, enough to mess up the cushions. I'll have to answer to the missus later for that. Forgot to bring them in. And it's really, it looks like the sun's trying to break through. I have a nice group of guys on here, so I figured we would start. Let's go around the room and say, let's say hello to John Landry, who's up there in East Hampton.
Yes, I am up there. And in the back of me is the lake.
Pokety Paw.
Yeah, a little bit cool out here today, but it's the sun tries to come out. And I hope it is going to, because it's supposed to be 85. And I'm dressed like it's supposed to be 85, but right now it's 62.
All right. Well, is it something where we know the translation of Lake Pokety-Pog? What does Pokety-Pog mean?
I think it's named after the tribe of Indians that surrounded this lake back in 200 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Those are the ones who brought in, they think, the pontoon boats when they first arrived. Yes.
Right. That's right.
That lake is covered with pontoon boats. Those are the party boats. Pete Saland is here. Hi, Pete.
Hello, Steve. Hello, everybody, live and in person from Norfolk, Virginia. The neighborhood I live in was built in 1964. So what is that, 61 years ago. And they are just now, as we speak, repaving the street in front of us. And it stinks. I mean, it's blacktop, so it smells like tar and yuck, but it's about time because they had the original paving, the original 60-year-old paving on it.
Well, it's interesting, because a lot of the neighborhoods, when you go into like Litchfield County and stuff, back, when Buckley Sr. had a home out in Washington Depot, all of the roads around there, all the way down around the gunnery and that private school and all that, were packed dirt. There was absolute and perfectly packed dirt, of course, but not asphalt. Then I think it may still be like that. Oh, Bill Rock. Hi, Bill. Good morning.
Good morning, Steve, and everyone else. It's good to see you. I'm on the banks of the Long Island Sound, and I didn't win Powerball. I tried, but didn't make it. And we're enjoying the gift from China, the lantern flies.
And if you have that money from Powerball, you'd be able to wipe them all out.
Well, I did find two things that worked. One is this yellow tape that you put around the tree. It's double-sided tape. And the other is a kind of a trap that you would find if you were catching lobsters or crabs, but they're much smaller. They climb into it and they can't figure out how to get out of it. So we've been harvesting these damn bugs that are all over the place.
Must drive your neighbors crazy, though, with all those yellow ribbons tied around the old oak tree.
Yeah, we're expecting people home, I guess.
All right. Ed Bruder from New Hampshire. Hi, Ed.
Good morning. Reporting in from the northern climes of Manchester, New Hampshire, where I had lunch yesterday with Jeff Falowitz, and he had a message for Bob Craig that he will be in touch soon.
He was what?
He'll be in touch with Bob soon.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Do you know Bob Soon? I have no idea.
Hi, Bob. Bob's in.
Hey.
How are you?
Good morning from Philly. In the words of George Harrison, here comes the sun. Just coming out now. Fog is lifted. It's 64 big D degrees, and we're on our way to a nice weekend.
And just a couple hours away from
lunchtime.
Bob of Vero Beach. Hi, Bob.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Good morning, guys. Always good to be with you guys here. Just before we got together, I had something really spooky happen. See this bookcase right here?
Yeah.
I was sitting there in the other room and I heard a crash. And I got up from my chair and I went into the office here. This Bible.
Whoa.
It's a family Bible. It weighs about 20 pounds. It was fully sitting right there in the bookcase. right next to a photograph of my dad, who was in the Army. When I walked in here, the book and the picture was on the floor.
Wow. Wow.
Oh
There
my.
is no possible explanation, no possible way. That book and that picture has been sitting there probably for the last few years.
Wow.
And I'm still sitting
You
here.
you seem spooked, Bob.
I am. It was, there's no explanation, Pete. There's no explanation. If anybody can come up with an explanation, I'll be glad to listen.
Is this an anniversary date or anything by any chance? If your
No,
father's
no,
passing?
I was just online. I was sitting there online and I was looking at a Facebook post somebody had made in a mega church service where there were smoke stacks going off and there was a rap group and the lights were going and all that.
Woo.
And I just got through writing, this is an abomination.
Mm, mm, mm.
And next thing I know, pow, the thing just hit the floor.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yep.
Anyway, it's good to be with you guys.
It was funny when after my dad passed away, and of course, he's him and my mom and other family members are across the street at DRC from DRC on Blue Hills at Mount St. Benedict, and they were so strict over there with the rules in the Catholic cemetery. Somehow we weren't able to get that small antenna with the blinking light up above his headstone. Always thought that would have been appropriate. Oh. Ron Pell, hi Ron from the Shire.
Good morning here in Cheshire, where it's going to be a summer day today. It's sun's coming out. By the way, Bob Marks, Dee Parker, Joe Orlando, and myself had lunch with Jim Esposito a couple of days ago, and
Yeah.
Jim wanted to pass on his regards to you. We're trying to get him to come on the podcast on the Zoom, but he's talked about how the years he was the sales manager following me at DRC before I came back. You and he developed a very special relationship.
You talking about me?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I always loved Jimmy. He was a super guy. We got along great. I'll never forget him. And wasn't he the one who was working on the UConn basketball and football package?
No, that was
that
me.
was you. That was you.
Yes.
That was you.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That was actually before Jim. Long story short, I decided to leave on January 1st of 1983. I had an opportunity to go to work for a family business, which I did. For 6 years, I left. Rob Branham was there. Rob Branham was appointed sales manager. 30 days later, he left to join Channel 3, where he spent the rest of his career in television. And Jim Esposito was the next man up. And he was sales manager for 2 years until he and Corson got into an amazing argument where Jim ended up throwing a set of keys at Corson's head, just missing Corson's head and hitting the wall. And for 25 years, that indentation in the wall was still there until Eric Fano ran the station and took got rid of the paneling and the thing in the office. But after Jim was 2 years, a guy named Bob Hart. And then some other guy came, and then Glenn Lucas. Seemed like every year and a half, Corson would get rid of somebody until I resurfaced, and I came back, and I was there as sales manager from 1991 to 2006 when I left to go to CRN.
So you left in 1983 in January.
Correct.
Okay, I left in 1983 in, I believe it was July.
Right, you left to go when you were in the used car business.
I didn't intend to be in the used car business. I intended to be on TV or some other radio, maybe TIC Sports or whatever.
You did a great job, Bob. When we introduced the sports and you went to Corson and asked him to allow you to do sportscasts on Bradshaw and do and you ended up doing a little show in the afternoons and stuff. You did a great job. I remember that commercial. You, Ken Trimble, and Brad Davis did a TV commercial with the bouncing ball, the basketball. I mean, you were really good. You were good.
I had a lot of fun. It was really a great run over there.
Yes. Let's go over to Jim Harrington, who just joined us. Hi, Jim.
Hi, guys. How you doing? I've been away for a couple of weeks. running some errands and going to doctor's appointments and stuff. But I've been thinking
Gotta
about
do it.
Other than that, everything is fine on this end. Hoping that we have a good fall. I missed the topics you talked about the last couple of weeks. I'm sure they were probably the best topics that we've ever talked about, because that's the story of my life. I disappear, but that's about it.
Lee Gordon's here.
Good morning, everybody. From I wish I could say from sunny South Florida, but it's not really sunny. It is 82 degrees, but the clouds outnumber the blue, and it's not been good for my health, because I like to go out and take a walk in the evening. I walk a couple of miles, and it seems like every evening, about the time I'm ready to go out, it starts to thunder and rain, and I'm not dedicated enough to doing the walking to do it in the rain. So, and I don't have the good sense to say, well, let me just do it earlier. I just that never occurs to me, because
Lee, there's this new thing that they just came out with. It's an umbrella.
yeah, I've heard of them. But yeah, umbrella is just a portable lightning rod, so we're not doing that.
Well, we're glad that you're alive and well. Tracy's here. Hi, Tracy.
Well, good morning, everybody, from beautiful Longmeadow, Mass. A little rain overnight. You talk about freaky stories. A friend of mine passed away 4 years ago, who worked under Wayne as chief engineer at Big D for a very short duration, Chuck Hurley. And he was friends with Carly Simon and a big Carly Simon fanatic. And starting last week, the anniversary of his death was last Sunday, because my wife's was Saturday, or vice versa. Actually, Saturday, my wife's was Sunday. And on my Spotify playlist started playing nonstop Carly Simon tunes on around Wednesday through the date of his death, and all of a sudden just stopped. I never programmed it on there, so I thought that was kind of freaky. The only other freaky thing was the door to my bedroom opening at 3:30 in the morning and nobody being there. So I felt like I was in the twilight zone.
It left you with a lot of anticipation, I'm sure.
Exactly. Exactly. But other than that, welcome. Good morning. Nice to see everybody. Lee, if you're around, I'm going to be doing a hit and run down there this week, so I'll give you a call, and maybe we get together for some teriyaki tabby.
Yeah, Barry Berman's back. Hi, Barry.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be back, and it's a glorious day here in West Haven.
So you're not in Nantucket?
I'm not in Nantucket. Danny is home, which is great. My son lives in California, and he is the archivist for the Grateful Dead at Warner Music, and he's just got his first name on the CDs that just came out. So
wow.
Great,
it's kind of exciting for him.
Mazel
yeah,
tov.
there's somebody put a great routine up on Facebook that was all about the Grateful Dead, and it was so funny. It was a woman doing a stand-up routine, and it was talking about how people, every single concert's different. So she said, well, I went to the one on October 3rd. And the comment was, that was the one when Jerry, blah, blah, blah. You should have gone to the 4th. The people that are the Deadheads know the history of every freaking concert.
Right.
And, like Dark Stars is a cover band for Grateful Dead. And after they play one of their concerts, they'll always come out and say, that was the Dead concert from such and such time. Right. And I laugh because my buddies, like Barry is a Deadhead, and I go, Angela and I go and sit there going, oh no, not again. But very, very, very good following.
Mike McCann, you didn't get him.
No, I know. I'm trying to go around. What I usually do when I get a special guest coming in, I like to save them for last. So I apologize, Mike. That's why I'm not avoiding you, but I'm avoiding you. So we're just about here. Dave Nagel's here. Say good morning, Dave.
Good morning. From gorgeous Plainville, Connecticut, cloudy skies, 70 degrees, overnight rain, a little muggy today, but going to be a good day overall. So, yeah, just happy to be here with you guys this morning.
And who's JC on the iPhone?
Hey, that would be Jim Coulter from CCC.
Wow, Jim Coulter. Wow. Oh, boy.
Wow. These days, calling in from Long Beach, New York. That's the ocean behind me, and I was able to be put into this position for doing all the nights and weekends working for Cy Dressner.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for the invite, Steve.
Oh, well, we've been trying to get you for a while. Appreciate it. Mike McCann. Hi, Mike. We were saving you for the last. So what's up, Mike?
Well, we're waking up to sunshine here in beautiful Shenango County, New York, halfway between Binghamton and Syracuse. A lot of rain last night for those who watched the football game that was interrupted by lightning. We had some of the same storm up here. I think we had a little more rain, a little less lightning, but this morning we are back to late summer brilliance.
Sound like a weatherman.
I did that along with everything else. You know, the weather, the sports, today's hit music. That was all part of the game. 48 years of fun.
Wow.
You look younger than the last time I saw you there, Mike.
Well, thank you, Bill. No, I never had a lot of stress. I'm one of the lucky ones. You know, you will occasionally, all of us will bump into somebody who asks about our former career, and honest to God, never regretted a day of it, and enjoyed every moment. And probably best of all, got to leave on my terms. Just about 3 years ago, this week. Right after in fact, the last day I worked for WFAN was the first day of the 2022 football season. Did some updates for them and for the late WCBS 880, and I decided after that I'd done enough.
Well, you know something, Mike, as long as we have you here, were you with us a while back?
I was here 2 or 3 weeks ago. Somebody mentioned Walter Mann. I was on that in that
That's
group.
right. That's right. Yeah, because I didn't know if we really had a chance to talk, and especially I know some people here weren't there then. Just thumbnail sketch as far as where you started. It sounds like you went for quite a career. So where did it kick off?
Began in Peekskill, New York, while I was attending college in New York City. I was at WLNA and WHUD from the fall of '74 through the first of 1977. Took a couple of weeks off till I found the next gig, which was WPST Trenton, WMID Atlantic City. While I was at MID, and I think, Bob, you noted this, I was at WPEN for some weekend work, the late summer of '79, and left the Philadelphia, quote, South Jersey area to come work for Pete at Waves and then KC 101. And I left KC right after Memorial Day of '80. Your dad hired me to join Big D. I came in as Tom Kelly was leaving.
Yeah.
And then Pete brought me at in the middle of the summer actually to do some Sunday morning work, and then weekends, which led to overnights at WYNY from the summer of '80 through the day NBC literally flipped the keys over to Westwood One.
Mike, since you were there when I was there, did we ever talk?
We talked. You did On Your Mark. I think it was at 5:30 every day.
Yeah, that was a pre-recorded 5-minute sports update. Yeah.
Yeah. That was, you were a part of that. I've got to ask you, I didn't realize you were in Vero Beach. What's going on with the old Dodgertown complex?
It's the Jackie Robinson Training Center. Is what it is. It's always busy. They bring in a lot of baseball, football teams, soccer teams from not only this country, but all over the world. I mean, you'll see Italian teams, Korean teams. It really is an exceptional place, but man, I really miss Dodgertown and the Dodgers when they come here for spring training, or the Vero Beach Dodgers, the A team. And it was just a fabulous place. Sandy Koufax, of course, lives here in Vero Beach. And I've met many of the Dodger players, Don Drysdale and people like that. So it's an incredible place, but it used to be even more incredible when we had the Dodgers.
I was lucky enough to be there, I think, on 3 occasions. Shot a lot of photos there, and they're up on my website. If anybody goes to mikemccann.blogspot.com, use the search engine for Vero Beach, you'll find some of the photos I took, and it was indeed a remarkable place. And unfortunately, as baseball became bigger and bigger business, I guess the Dodgers kind of, besides the inconvenience of having to come back east every winter, I think they just wanted a bigger, more money-making complex, which is now what they have out in Arizona.
Yeah, you know, I've lived here since '87, and when I moved here, I felt like I was in baseball heaven because you know you'd see all the great old Dodgers from yesteryear, and being a Yankee fan, you know, I wasn't too happy with you know the fact that they beat us in the World Series the way they did. They beat us like a drum. But it's a wonderful place to live, and I wouldn't even think of living anywhere else. Steve has been here.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We went down there, had a great. It's funny how we all get together, and when we do get together, we find food somewhere, and we pull over to the side of the road. But yeah, it's beautiful. In fact, Angela, her stepson is building a place supposedly for us down in Melbourne, a little barrier island off of that called in the Atlantic, and supposed to be like a pool house, I guess, in the backyard. Sure. Angela will be spending a lot of time there while I'm up here trying to sell shirts for Tommy Bahama. Hey, you know,
Mike, when you were at PEN, Jeff Fox was doing mornings, correct?
Jeff just left or was just about to leave.
That's
I
it,
got
yeah.
there the first weekend of August in '79, and Jeff and our paths never crossed. My path crossed with Pat Farnack, who was later a colleague at PBS New York.
Yeah.
And Mike Bowe, who I last saw at a tribute to Brian Wilson at Radio City Music Hall. We were both covering it.
Yeah, Mike is still around here. He's still in South Jersey. Pretty
Mhm.
much retired at this point. He did afternoons for us at WMGK. Pat Farnack did morning news for us at MGK.
Right. And she was also on Channel 48
That's right. Yes, I forgot about that.
doing their, I guess, news / public affairs obligation show, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was nice to reunite with those folks later on, especially Pat had such a great run at CBS, first anchoring and then doing feature programming when she chose to step back. Is she still, I believe her and her husband were running a B&B somewhere?
Jim Harrington had a run with her, right, Jim?
Yeah, last I heard, she's enjoying retirement. No B&B, as far as I know. No, she's just chilling out in Washington Crossing.
That was the area. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm wrong. I thought she was involved with a B&B of some kind, but yeah, great talent.
She is. Good person.
She actually came to Philly from San Francisco. I believe that she was it KNBC, Jim? Do you
You know, she worked in San Francisco. I think she was originally, though, from the eastern Pennsylvania area.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
She went out
She
to
and
San
I-
Francisco and then came back.
Yeah, we started really the same day practically at MGK. So she was in the news department and I was programming it, and that was it.
She
One more
was
memory- oh, sorry.
she was married to a good friend of mine who passed away in 2002, a guy named Dan Foley. I don't know whether any of you guys knew Dan Foley. He was he did a lot of voice work. Maybe Bill might have known him over at NBC. He was a voice guy for MSNBC and NBC Network, and was a great guy. He worked in Hartford Radio, and he worked under the name of Dan Phillips over
Right.
at RCQ, and he was just a real good guy. And like I said, he died way too young, 52, of cancer. And she went through a period of grieving, and fortunately, she met a guy who was a good guy, and they've been married. I think she's been married like another, 21 years or something like that. So it's worked out. But she's a good person. She's been through her ups and downs.
Dan actually went to CSB because I remember
Yes, he did.
having him as a
Yep.
student there.
Yep, he did.
This had to be like early.
He worked at
70s.
INF too for a while. I think his first job in radio was INF. Dan was a character. I first met him. I was working at DRC, and he used to come in. I guess he was at CSB, and I would be in the studio on the air in the FM, in the 750 studios, and I would look look over my shoulder, and I see this guy just looking in. And he must have come up like every other day just to see what was going on, maybe a downtime between classes or something. And after a while, I'm naturally nosy, so I go out, the door, and I introduce myself. We start talking, and it was one of those friendships that started in the strangest ways, and it lasted until he died. And he used to have a house, an old house in Washington Crossing, and he and Pat really took care of this thing. Must be 250 years old, and he'd invite me down. To give you the kind of guy he was, after he got his success, and he got a lot of success. He had he was the first guy I ever knew that had a studio in his house, before it was like the commonplace thing. And he one day he said, "Hey, you got to come up. We're going to go to Dick Robinson's 60th birthday party." I said, "Well, just come on, meet me in Washington Crossing." So I drove across Pennsylvania from Pittsburgh, go to his house. There's this big stretch limousine in his driveway, and he gave me a glass of Maker's Mark or whatever. He loved Maker's Mark. We got in the limo, off we went up to Farmington to his 60th, and I kept thinking to myself, boy, Dick must really be old now.
That's what we all thought. Yeah. Ron was there. I was there. Yeah.
Holy smokes! But that was the kind of guy he was. He was a good guy. Anyway, I digress. I'm sure other people have other stories they want to.
First class all the way. It sounds like the guy really.
He was.
He started at CSB.
CSB, the INF. Then he worked at RCQ.
That sounds like Ron Pell.
At one point, he was so poor. He said he was living in his car in Bristol.
Oh, wow.
And then he had no money,
Was he working at WBIS at the time?
I think probably. But
Bristol's radio station.
He ended up growing into, like I said, one of the, he made a lot of money. When a lot of money was a lot of money, he was making a lot of money, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. It was at YNY, I'm not YNY, MSNBC. I was there first, and then after that, there was a guy named RJ, and then D. Snyder was actually doing voiceover work, and I think he was after him.
Really?
Yeah.
D. Snyder, you mean the musician?
Yeah. There's only one.
Who was a jock on 104 too.
Yeah, right. For a few years, he had some real ratings. He had a good following, and that's doing the morning show.
He's still going.
The director loved his voice.
What, Jim?
I said he's still going too.
Is he?
As a musician? Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned having your own studio. There was a guy, and anybody who had anything to do with sales would remember this name. A very interesting name, and I had to pick up a couple of tapes from him one time. He had a home studio too. It wasn't very much, but this guy also had his own ad agency, and his name was Richard Schenkman.
Oh yeah. Jim, we talk about Schenkman somewhat often. Matter of fact, we had a lunch the other day, a few of us, and his name came up. An interesting guy. He's still in jail and will be in jail for the rest of his natural life.
And he still owes me money.
You know where to find him, I guess.
Yeah.
I know where to find him. I don't know where to find the money.
Hey, Jim, I have Jim Coulter. I got a question for you. Could you just talk about how it was when you guys hired Howard Stern, when Howard Stern came to, did he ever come to the studios? Did you ever meet Howard Stern?
This was the late 70s. He was about 24 at the time. And the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet off the air. I mean, I've worked with so many people who had basically half the talent and twice the ego. But this guy was like a sponge, just willing to learn anything. And the nicest guy to work with you could ever imagine. His wife at the time, and he was married to her for many, many, many years, but she was working overnights at a convalescent home in Bloomfield, because they needed both incomes. And we watched him. He came in, and he was good and everything. But I mean, over the course of the year and 3 quarters or so that he was there, we just watched him rocket away to.
He went to Detroit from Hartford. He went to Detroit, then Washington, then New York. But were you there when he came back? When he came back the second time?
I'm talking about when he was originally there.
I understand.
Late 70s. Okay. Eventually he came back, but that was in syndicated form, and that was out of New York. No, I don't believe he ever set foot in Hartford. And by that time, I had moved on anyway. But back in the late '70s when he came in, he was just sometimes be working the phones. He'd get off his shift, come on over, pick up the phone after a while, call the Hartford Courant. Do you hear what I just did? And after a while, every time he'd do that, he'd be on like page 2 the next day, And he's just the greatest self-promoter I'd ever seen. When his movie came out, he somehow got on the cover of Time and Newsweek at the same time. Okay, and for that 1 week, that was the top-rated movie in the country. I think it was right before Tom Cruise release, and they just picked a week, and the guy just God bless him, he made his own path.
Yeah, when
And
people
on Monday,
people
he's
are
going to make an
saying-
announcement about his future, I guess. On September 8th, he's going to announce whether he has a new deal with Sirius or not.
Yeah, who knows? But I mean, he's always come out better than anybody else. I mean, it's like the guy is, just a genius.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's funny when people ask me, what does it take? I go, Howard Stern, average voice, average intelligence, above average ambition. That guy knew
Absolutely.
He was
Absolutely.
the king of all media when he cracked open the mic the first time.
Oh yeah.
Howard and I went to Boston University together, same graduating year and all that, and then we reunited when I was at WYNY. He was downstairs at WNBC. We used to run into each other in the executive washroom, and yeah, he was nothing like he was on the air in person, and he has certainly turned into a hell of an interviewer, huh?
Yeah.
He was always a genius at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was driving down the West Side Highway and I was listening to him. And he got into an argument with somebody about who was doing the spot. And he says, and the engineer said, "That's Bill Rock." He says, "That's not Bill Rock." I said, "This guy knows me."
I'll say this: when he did come back, syndicated,
Did you grab her?
there was on occasion he'd do commercial spots for local clients, and I got him to do one for me, but you could tell he was not into it. And I think it was Tony Cashman at the time, and he goes, "Okay, we're gonna make this big buy, but I want Stern to do the spot." And I jumped through all these hoops, got him to do it, but he just like read it like
Throw away.
average voice, average ability, but above average ambition, And I mean, by the time Tony finished it, he goes, "Okay, we're not going to use it." He was
But,
fulfilling
it's
the terms
interesting
of his contract.
when he came back in syndication, up to that point, Sebastian, Joe Schlosser, really had unbelievable ratings and had a real great run.
Yeah.
And then as soon as Howard Stern came back to CCC, literally Sebastian's ratings were cut by 70%.
Yeah, I think it was at,
within a
what
week.
was it, ZMX then, the 70s station?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, he said that, but Sebastian, from what I heard, used to say if Stern ever comes into the market, that's going to change. That will change everything.
And I think that's right.
He knew that. But it's interesting. One day, and you guys will appreciate this. One day, Stern went on and on and on about Clark Smith, and he said, "I'll never forget Clark Smith. When I was going to school in Boston, I went to his office, and he was the only guy that ever went out of his way to come out and shake my hand." And I thought that, our Clark Smith, which was when he was, when he was up in Boston. But yeah, be interesting to see what happens. But Ron, when you were talking to me about what is it, Joe Rogan and some of his, some of his downloads that are monthly, like insane, right?
Yeah, still.
But Howard's got to be seeing that and probably says, if I did a podcast every now and then, I could probably put, some spots on there, still make some pretty good dough and not have to have a big staff.
You
Well,
get
the
Jim
interesting
Harrington
thing
kind of
is
downloads.
there was an article in the paper the other day, or I read online somewhere about the guys who were working for him, all these characters, they were all scurrying around trying to find work. Because now Gary Delabate is a multimillionaire, lives, I think, in New Canaan or Greenwich. She doesn't need the money. Robin's been wealthy. She doesn't need the money. Howard Stern's, according to the internet, Howard Stern's net worth is somewhere in the vicinity of $650 million. And he's 71 years old. Do you see him doing a podcast? I don't.
Well,
what does he need to do that for? You know, I mean,
Well,
if he wants to be on the air, I don't know. I don't think there's Barry. Barry's good friends with Howard Stern. Barry was on Howard Stern's show.
Yes. Not my finest moments. I think I've told you the story here, right?
Yeah,
I
but
remember
please tell
that.
it again. It changes all the time.
Mount Rushmore of radio.
What's that? So
The
I
Mount
was on a
Rushmore of
show
radio.
on Sirius, and apparently what we had done as one of our things is that we created the Mount Rushmore of radio, and I keep trying to figure out who was on it. And he was on it.
Marconi.
Marconi.
The
Rush
guy who
Limbaugh.
started General Sarnoff.
Yeah.
I think it was General Sarnoff. And
Limbaugh.
Howard Stern. I forget who else.
Yeah, and I
I think
can't
Rush
remember.
was on it, right? Wasn't Rush Limbaugh on it?
Rush Limbaugh, that's right.
Rush Limbaugh, or the other guy, Paul Harvey. Was it Paul Harvey? I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, it was 4 or
Because he
5,
kind
yeah,
of started,
yeah.
right? He kind of started that shtick, you know. I don't
Yeah.
remember, but whatever it was, Stern was on it, and so he called me up and he said, you know, can you come down to New York or down to New York, and let's do a thing on it. So I said, all right, we'll go. So I went there, nervous as hell, and he brought me into the studio, or his aide brought me into the studio, and we started talking. And he said, you know, this is, and we had a very good depiction of Mount Rushmore. We had a very good artist at the time, and he served it up, and you know, we gave him a photo of it all, and with a frame. He says, you know, I think we should really build the Mount Rushmore of radio. So I said, yeah, okay, you know, and I don't. Yeah, let's build it. And he said, and then I said, why don't we build it at your house? Because we couldn't figure out a place. Why can't we fill it at your house? Because you've got a pretty big thing, and we'll put it right on your lawn. He said, no. I'm talking about Mount Rushmore. I think you should bring these 4 people and get it up on a mountain somewhere. And I said, well, I still think we can do it at your house. And he got so angry with me, and he like threw me out of the studio. And now I'm sitting in the green room, red room, I don't remember what color the room was, and I'm free, you know, I'm saying, oh my God, millions of people are listening, all the people I know are listening, and he just ripped me apart. And you know, his aide came out and said, you know, this is his thing, you know, but I never listened to the tape. And it was one of my worst moments of all time. Not my all time, but it was really a bad moment for me.
Yeah, but you know something, Barry, again, you know, not being a big fan or a big follower of his, that is pure Stern.
Yeah.
You better believe when he fried you like that and threw you out.
Right.
I talked to other people who actually heard that interview. It was great.
Starting out, when he received the news the week or two earlier that we were putting him on the Mount Rushmore of radio, he said to Robin, and this was great, he said, Robin, have you heard? I'm going to be on the Mount Rushmore of radio. And she said, what's that all about? He said, well, this company in Connecticut, CRN, created the Mount Rushmore of radio. You know CRN, Robin. Everyone knows CRN. I mean, it was just incredibility.
Hey, Barry, I've got a perfect mountain to put the Mount Rushmore of radio on.
Yeah.
It's in Meriden.
Meriden, absolutely.
Meriden Mountain. That's where I began my professional career at WLAE.
Yeah. Hi.
No, that was classic. That was so classic. And you know something? It was such a great thing from a bragging standpoint. It really was. Anybody we talked to after that, the fact that you and CRN had been on there, because you know, and most people would never by some fluke. I think Angela heard it, but never by some fluke happen to hear that and get that connection. So it was great. I mean, we really we were able to ride that out for quite a bit. That was really a good thing to have. But I do know when they said, you know, how when I first heard that you were like devastated, you go, no, that's Howard.
Proverbially, it's like putting your head under a blanket. You just don't want to hear anything anymore. You don't want to see anything more, you know.
Probably everybody else thought it was entertaining, and you know, nobody thought the worst of you at all. I mean, that's just the way it was.
Yeah, it was the way it was.
Hey Jim, how many hats did you wear at CCC? You were there for a very, very long time. So did you go through different formats, etc.?
Well, looking back, I mean, the format basically stayed the same, but there were so many itinerations of it. I mean, as Bill Nozzle would say, at the time, I mean, though, when I first got there, you could play James Taylor, you could play AC/DC, I mean, it was all, this progressive rock, which was an all encompassing term. And then gradually, it started to shift and shape, and other stations came in, and you really had to get more, streamlined with your format, and you couldn't really be all things to all people the way it was. So, I was doing some on the air stuff nights and weekends and everything, making a ton of money for Cy Dressner, and also doing full time sales too. And I stayed there, right until the sale in 1998.
How did you, Jim? How did you stand to be working for that guy?
A lot of people said a lot of things about him. He had a sense of humor. We kind of got along. And, it's like for my purposes, I was having a good time there. I could be myself there. And in every station, unfortunately, a lot of people came and went. And it just, something you had to roll with. But, he had a sense of humor. He always told me he wanted to give me a Rorschach test. And I said, well, all I see is a dark, menacing cloud. And I'll say this: every day I come in with my bagel and I pick it up and I'd eat it, and of course I'd have butter on it. I'm not Jewish, so I understand Jewish people like him. They only put cream cheese on their bagels.
A schmear.
And pretty much every day he'd come up to me and he goes, "Where's my bagel?" And every day I'd say the same thing. I'd say, "Your bagel is at the store waiting to be purchased." Well, I swear to God, the 90s came. He lived to be like 91 or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He passed on. I went to the services afterwards, and after the services back at the temple, they had this spread of food and everything. And, so I'm grabbing a bagel and I'm looking around and I say to myself, "Where's the butter?" And I swear to God, I heard this voice in my head going, "Your butter is at the store waiting to be purchased." And he got me back.
Well, though, Jim, I mean, the whole secret was you had a very, very strong run over there, and you brought in a lot of revenue. And, and the thing is, that's what, even when I was years ago, back in the 80s, I wanted to do the same thing. And I was working for Debbie Gould at KISS. And I said, I just want to do part-time overnight, one night a week or something.
Yeah.
And she just flipped and said, "You got to do one or the other." And I took the part-time overnight because that was my little, Ron can tell you, that was my little feed. That's what, if I could record a commercial or do anything. And of course I was, as you probably know, I mean, it's like I didn't belong to either side. Sales thought I was programming.
Jim, you guys had a very good, long-lived sales department there, led by Milt Daniger.
That is correct.
And Milt was a nice guy, but when Sebastian was working for you, he created a nickname for Milt. Do you remember what his nickname was?
Milt the Schmuck.
That's what he called him.
And Sebastian was another one, though, wasn't? I mean, when we worked with him, Ron, he was another guy opposite of what he was on the air.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, very, very low key. And I think, when you talk about CCC and you talk about Stern, and the fact that, Stern really, Nozzle turned him down initially. And then, so the story goes, Stern really wanted to, never got a call. So we called Nozzle and Nozzle gave him another shot. And Nozzle would always say that he's, discovered Howard Stern. And,
the thing about CCC, though, besides Howard Stern, it was a really, really well-run progressive rock radio station. Yeah. I mean, that music, man. I remember I used to listen to the commercials, all the beer business they would get because they dominated men 18 to 34, 18 to 24.
18 to 24.
I mean, really, that would be beer commercial after beer commercial. How many millions of dollars are they raking in from beer companies? Because the station was a really, really solid station.
I'll say this: when I moved on, I started to sell television for a brief moment, and I got my first buy, I think, in about 20 years that had basically a female skewed demo. Because I used to tell people at CCC, half of the women who listened to us worked there. and that was about it.
Yeah, and who was that woman you had that had been there with you guys forever? Real classy lady, real good.
Her name was Merle.
Merle
Merle
Brockelman.
Holden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Brockelman, right.
And I
And
think
you know
that's-
Denise Caroli, right, Jim? That name ring a bell?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, Denise Caroli, absolutely. Yeah, she worked
for us
in the front office. Yes.
She worked for us at CRN for a while, and
Yep.
till we found out she didn't do anything, and we had to. Well, anyway, that's another story. But yeah, Mike Caroli was a good PD. And then when CCC was sold, Dick Robinson basically bought the rights to it, and they put it online as iRock Radio. And I think it's still doing that. It was the original Jock lineup.
I don't think that survived, the internet thing. I know that I had a decent run, but Mike continues to land on his head. I think now he's in Danbury.
In Albany, right?
Albany, but his show is broadcast in Danbury.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the company, but it's like he's based out of Albany. And he was never out of work for long. I mean, in this day and age, we all know. I mean, like, I don't know how he does it, but I mean, he's moved
good.
around.
Mike Caroli. I mean, when I worked for Dick Robinson for a year, me and Caroli didn't really get along very well. Of course, I fired his ex-wife, who we were still close to. So he always held that against me. But I was a talented guy, talented programmer. He was really good.
Yeah. And he's still going. It just and when he first came to CCC, he was like 18 years old, and not much older than Fred Norris, who was Stern's sidekick.
Yeah.
When Fred Norris came to us, he just finished up at UConn, and he was doing overnights there, and that's how we met Howard Stern, because Howard would come on at 6 a.m. So it's like, hey, how you doing? And they gradually got to know each other, and Fred could do any voice you wanted. Jimmy Carter was president at the time, and I'd write these commercials. I'd need Fred could do Jimmy Carter better than Jimmy Carter could do himself. Any voice you needed. And, the inflection one time I was having him do a line, and I said, well, please do it this way. And he just immediately changed the inflection. It's like, no ego, no nothing. It's like, how do you want it done, basically? And look at him now.
Yeah,
but Mike was also extremely young, and he just soaked everything up like a sponge.
Yeah, when Caroli, I heard him the other night too, somewhere, because I was down in the southern part of the state, and and the thing about Mike is he can adapt. And when I'm listening to his whole presentation, he was more top 40 sounding than anything else. I mean, he really had that energy. And I think that's always been the key, is that, Paul Payton, God rest his soul. Paul was what do you need me to do? Is it country?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it rock? Okay. And it just takes direction very well. But I do remember the last day, as I'm sure you do, Jim, when K-Love was coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And they basically let CCC ride out the whole day with a reunion. And Howard got on, did, I think, 17 minutes or something, didn't he?
It was something like that. I had moved on by that point, but I do remember listening to it, and they had Howard on, and this was all basically a tribute to Mike Caroli, because as we all know, it's like once management decides you're gone, they usually don't give you the microphone, okay, to do whatever, okay. It was different with Mike Caroli, and they got him to host that whole show. He had Howard on, as you say, and it was just a beautifully done afternoon of all this nostalgia. And anybody who still, whether you had been there or not, even if you had never worked there, you had to know from an industry standpoint, that this was the end of something special.
And Howard, both that time and when Nozzle died, both of those two times, Howard went on and on his show and just going on and on and on about how terrific Nozzle was and everything. And we recorded that for his kids, because it was really, nothing. He never, ever, one thing about Stern still, never forgets anybody.
Yeah.
And that's like, no matter how that was, he always goes back and remembers everything.
Yeah. He's a genius that way. And, he's just highly intelligent. he's got his head on his shoulders through it all. And, once again, he's like, you get him off the microphone, he's just like an everyday guy. At least that's the way he was. And I believe that's the way he still is.
And K-Love is doing pretty well with that station too, aren't they?
Well, they continue to buy up things around the country, much to all of our dismay. I can't really speak to that end of the industry, but they're getting their funding from somewhere, and they keep on getting bigger. And it's let's face it. I think a lot of us remember the radio the way it used to be, and kind of miss it that way.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
things
think
move on.
Bob Marley may have a good handle on what K-Love is all about because he's been in Christian radio for so long. But I don't even know if they ever sell local advertising on K-Love.
I don't think they do, but once again, I can't really speak to it. I can't say I listened to them, nor have I really. I think I spent about 10 minutes listening to them one time, and that was about it. Because I'm already saved.
Yep. Well, and it's interesting because we spoke with Bob a while back. That one format is one that continues to excel because they can't find it anywhere else.
Yeah.
That the Christian stuff. Am I right, Bob? Or you can correct me at anywhere?
No, that's true. It really has been on the rise. Contemporary Christian music is gaining a lot of popularity. It's not for old people. I think 18 through 34 perhaps is the target. And when I was doing it, it was on the rise, but it's even more so today. And I think K-Love isn't selling any on-air type of. It can't be called advertising because they're 501c3s as we are. So what they do is they ask for donations, and they get multiple millions and millions and millions of dollars from all over the United States, which is the reason why they buy up all these stations. It just expands their reach. Now, Christian FM, the station that I've been with since '91, we started syndicating our programming, our air personalities and our music programming to stations around the country. Started very small. South Carolina was one of the first stations, and then we expanded. But then most recently, just last year, when Salem decided that they were going to end their contemporary Christian radio programming around the country at various stations, our general manager who started the network went up to them and said, "Hey, we'd like to take it over." And so we did. So now we doubled the stations we have around the country because we took over Salem. And now we have over 400 stations that our air personalities and our music programming and all of that is on. So we've gained a lot of power, just like we're second to K-Love around the country. Wow. But we don't own any of those stations. We don't buy the stations. We just are an on-air custom content provider. That's about it. And they can use whatever name they want to use. Some are Joy FM, Spirit FM, the Sound of Philadelphia, whatever.
TSOP.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, it was something. Well, listen, I just wanted to, we did have Mike come on, and Mike, I just wanted to know, do you still do any tracking? Do you do any voice work, or it's only been 2 years you've been out, right?
Nope, I hung up the headphones, you might say, and honestly, don't want to be back. Mm-hmm. Every time I read something in the trades, it's not the business that we were all in, and the business we all enjoy being in. Mm-hmm. Rather, we come together and share our memories, occasionally go to a show and see the music that we enjoyed hosting done live. I was up at the New York State Fair about 10 days ago, saw Peter Noon up there.
Wow. Yeah, he's amazing. He's amazing.
He was, except for Stevie Wonder, he was, of course, the youngest of all the 60 stars, and he still got it. He still draws 5,000 people outdoors every year. He's been doing the New York State Fair, I came to find out, I think 15 or 16 years in a row.
Yep.
And it's great.
He knows how
to work an audience, and he's got evergreen songs. What more do you need? So I'd rather go enjoy that than try to, fight the demographic battle for, the music that I enjoy and so many of our friends enjoy.
Mike, I think I think if you're like like most of the rest of us, you really, really love what radio was, and you can't stand what radio is.
Pretty much. There's an imitation of it, a very pale imitation on Sirius. I will give Sirius credit for doing better sports talk than anybody over the air these days. But no, it's not the same as it was. I think part of it is, and we're all roughly about the same age here, guys, in our 70s and 80s. Our kids grew up with a different relationship to radio, not just our kids because they're ours, but that generation. And to see how they, quote, used radio, it's not a surprise that other sources of audio entertainment arose and radio began to fade, began to dwindle.
It's interesting too, because like when you talk about Peter Noon and all the way back to Herman's Hermits, and he does a 60s stuff, he's great. But that's a man, it does not matter how many people are there. He loves it with all his heart. He loves to do the fairs. A friend of mine went to see him at the Berlin Fair a few years ago, and he brought an album for Peter to sign. And he looked at my friend and goes, "Are you in a band?" And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "I am." He goes, "It's a lot of fun, isn't it?" And he'll always be the last one. Like Harry Chapin used to be that way.
Yeah.
He'd stay after the concerts and just meet everybody, talk to everybody. Sign
Absolutely. An hour. Literally, he was on stage 1.5 hours. He was signing autographs for everyone who got in line. By the way, this was signing autographs and taking pictures and not necessarily charging. If you wanted to buy a CD or buy merch, sure. But he took pictures. He signed what people brought from home, and there was a lot of vintage vinyl.
Harry Chapin
gets it.
Harry Chapin is still a revered soul down here in Long Island.
Yep.
There's a big amphitheater that bears his name there, and there's some big names that come in every summer, but his name is right up there at the beginning. Harry Chapin. He passed away, I think, on the LIE on the way to doing a show in 1981. And
you talk about really young artists. When I was at the Big D, I could hardly wait for the next release from Donny Osmond. I mean, one band full time. I could hardly wait to play that.
And he's another guy that still tours and loves it. It's interesting how many people step to the sidelines, and because it's even been in the world of DJs right now. How many times we've heard people, and we all know people, and we even see people on Facebook that they don't feel that they were getting paid what they're worth, and they just stop. I mean, if you love what you're doing, Jim Arrington killed it, and Dave can tell you, great jobs. I pointed in the direction of never making any money, but
I was thinking about what Bob said. I can remember when Bob was hanging around the music library, waiting for the rep who had the latest Donny Osmond record.
Yes. It was beyond excitement. Beyond excitement.
It was.
Mike, I'd be curious if you could talk a little about your sort of gradual swing into the sports end of things, away from the music end. Was that a conscious decision on your part, or was it a job opportunity, or how did that all come about?
It was a pragmatic opportunity. As those who know me for decades, and certainly Pete and Bill are in that area.
Oh yeah.
I have always been a sports nut and always aspired to get involved in sports radio. In fact, after your time with us, Pete, I got what amounted to my first pro sports assignment. I talked my way into a press pass to the Mets home postseason games in '86 and covered them, was in the locker room and was filing reports that aired on the morning news the next day, and had a ball. And I put that kind of in my back pocket. I used it the next spring to apply for a job that I did not get at the original WFAN, but again, held on to the tapes. And when I got to St. Louis, I included that, before getting to St. Louis with CBS, I included some of that Y&Y baseball reporting in my package to Robert Hyland, who gave me my first steady sports assignment, which was doing a 5-minute weekly sports history show on KMOX, in addition to doing afternoon drive on the oldies FM they had at the time.
Mike, your heart has always been in two places. It's always been in musicology and being on the air and working with the music. And at the same time, you have been, eagerly into sports. And I don't know anybody who has ever sounded better doing sports, or you know, you've been right up there with the rest of the music stars, and you certainly have worked at you know, some top stations in both formats. So good for
Thank you,
you,
Pete.
man. Good for
I
you.
appreciate it. Hearing it from you, I appreciate it. And you know, again, I guess in my career evolution, which was in 2005, was pure pragmatism. CBS FM flipped. By then, radio had been my part-time job. It had almost become, I would say, my hobby, but it wasn't my main source of income. That was being at Premier Networks as their oldies content creator.
But gosh, you sounded so good on CBS FM.
It was a wonderful station. Bill, you were part of the last group there with us, and we had a ball.
Well, as a matter of fact, I was going to say something about that with CBS FM. When I was doing Elvis, you were doing an Elvis show on CBS FM on Sunday nights.
Yes, I was. I had the Sunday night shift had evolved into an hour of Elvis and the last version of the Oldies Countdown. We did a top. It was called Top 10 again because we were looking for a different term than the Top 20, which it wasn't going to be. Because, of course, God forbid you go that deep on Oldies, you might play something people don't recognize. So you were absolutely right, Bill. We did an Elvis show, and I had a ball with it. Again, it was kind of Elvis my way. It was Elvis based on a lot of This Week in Elvis history, concerts or other dates that were tied to him, chart records that were synced with the calendar. I had a lot of fun with it. You know, alternated between the hits and the second and third tier stuff. And yeah, it was wonderful. But again, when that came to an end, within a month, it was very clear that Oldies were not coming back to New York radio in anywhere near the form that we had it at CBS. And that I got a very lucky break from my friend Joe McCoy, who had auditioned with a friend of his to do a weekend sports talk thing on FAN, which for Joe and his buddy, I believe it was Bob Lazari, didn't work out. But Joe said, Mark Chernoff is looking for part-time people. Give him a call. Well, it took a couple of months to get the right audition tape and to convince Mark that I was the right guy to add on as the newest member of the Sports Update team. And wouldn't you know it, the first weekend of the NFL season in 2005, I was on the air doing sports updates, and had a ball because there I was, you know, in my other wheelhouse, and had a great time with it. It got me involved in sports photography, which I still do, and no, I had a wonderful run there, and you know, to be able to be involved in both sports and music radio over 48 years, it's more than anybody could ever dream of. And,
Mike, you were in that picture that we did it when the last day of CBS FM.
Yeah, actually it was the union meeting a few days afterwards.
Right, and everybody got together in the conference room there, and
yeah, the conference room. And
was this when it
one of my favorite
flipped
pictures?
to Jack? Bill?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Okay.
I was supposed to come in on a Saturday morning. I got a call from Jim Logan. He said, "Don't bother coming in." I said, "Why not?" He says, "We're not CBS FM anymore. We're a thing called Jack."
Were you guys at what do you call it? 51 West 52nd Street still?
Yeah.
Yes.
Were you?
I remember doing the show and looking out and seeing things like New Year's Eve and seeing the ball drop and that sort of thing.
Yep, we were there. I'm got to mention, since you brought up the various buildings of CBS FM between Pete and Bob Craig and Bill. We've all worked at radio studios designed by Mark Olkowski. I think I may hold the record for being in the most different Mark Olkowski design studios. WPEN, WYNY at 30 Rock,
Right.
CBS FM at 51 West 52nd, CBS FM in the Viacom building, 1515 Broadway, and WFAN when it was moved into the CBS Hudson Square complex.
Well, when I was did you guys still have engineers when you were there, or did they was it board up? I mean, was it
70? Joe says 1978 they went combo.
Okay, so they went combo at 51 West 52nd Street. Is that right?
Yes.
And it was already combo by the time Bill and I worked there, for sure.
Yeah, when I was there, we just threw cues through the glass, you know, at Weldon. Well, I don't know. You had any of the engineers? Mark Weiner, Gary Caffell, um, Weldon Jackson. You know, none of those
Weldon, I
guys.
think, worked with Harry Harrison. Willie Thrash was there for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think that Willie was shared with 880, so I don't know how much of an opportunity you had to work with him. But Willie was there when I was there.
And there was Jimmy. Oh gosh, it's been so
Pierce?
long. You know, it's funny. I hear you guys talk, and I realize how old I am because I was there before you guys. I'm old. You guys, you know, you're not as old as I am, you know. But I was there when Bill Brown and Dickie Heatherton and Jack Miller and I'm trying to think some of the Don K. Reed.
Mm-hmm. Were you there with Bill Withers?
Bill, I replaced Bill. Bill died, and they were looking for the guy to replace him. And I guess I was the guy they found, which was sad because he was a good talent. He sounded great, at least from the tapes that I heard. You know.
Oh yeah. And he was a legend in Philly before coming up to work for CBS.
And he also worked at POP, I think, didn't he?
Yes, he did twice.
And his daughter
side
was
of his
the
military
DRC.
Yeah.
Of the oldies, DRC FM.
Wow. So, but I just hear you guys talk, and you must have been there. I don't know whether any of the guys that I worked with were still there well, I guess Don K. Reed was still there. He was still doing his.
Bill Brown was still there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Bill was there. Jeez.
Dan Daniel was there.
Dan wasn't there when he was over at.
Dan was with me at Y&Y. Well, he was at WNBC.
Yeah.
I worked both at Y&Y and at CBS FM. And Mike, you remember the studios at 30 Rock?
I do. My only regret of all that took place over the years that I was at NBC 30 Rock was I have no pictures of those beautiful studios.
I have no pictures either. I look back at all the things, like Saturday Night Live was right down the hallway. We were at 8A, and it was 8H, was of course where Saturday Night Live was. And it was a direct hallway to the green room. And I used to go on Saturday nights. I'd go out and raid the green room. That's where I met Brandon Tartikoff.
I once bumped into Al Franken, who was not in a happy mood to bump into a disc jockey from the radio station down the hall. Let's just put it that way.
I have pictures of them. I have pictures of them tearing down 9A, B, and C. That's all I have.
I met Al Franken in the men's room.
That's just funny. Photography was, it was different before the age of digital and iPhones, of course, and having your camera in your phone. But my only regret is I have no photos of those wonderful studios. Beautifully designed with the fireplace, of course.
Fireplace,
that was
where the fireside chats were supposed to be taking place, which probably may or may not have been true. But
that could be baloney, but
yeah, but it was a good talking point anyway.
Jim was talking before about age and being old. I just read this past week. Was it Dan Rather is turning 94, still very active, does a newsletter. And I read recently Mort Dean. Remember Mort Dean?
Yeah, Mort Dean.
BZ just turned 90. I remember working with Mort Dean at BZ.
Even the CBS.
Well, before that, he was at BZ 63 when I worked with him there.
He was supposed to be one of the journalists in space before the Challenger explosion kind of killed all of that. But he was one of the reporters who either had applied to it or was going to be one of the journalists who get to go to take a ride on the space shuttle.
Little point of interest.
Really nice guy.
He went to high school at Durfee High School in Fall River, Massachusetts. Just want to
Fall River, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, to think he was like in his 20s at that time in the early 60s, and these people, I think he's pretty much retired now. I don't know if he's still active. I know he did cable for a while, but there's actually on YouTube, there was an interview with him. It's like in 3 parts, and he goes through his whole career, talking a lot about Fall River and how he got his start, and then, up to BZ, and then eventually over to CBS and the like.
Well, speaking of folks with huge careers that are still active, Johnny Holiday, who those of us who grew up in the New York area probably remember, albeit briefly, as the last afternoon drive jock on 1010 Wins, much like yours truly and George Michael and a few other folks moved into sports. Johnny just began, I believe it is his 47th year doing play-by-play for University of Maryland football. And you might also recognize the name from ABC Radio Networks. He was one of their weekend sports anchors back in the 4 or 5 network days. And Johnny, who left New York not long after the format change at Wins, went to San Francisco and a couple of other places, wound up in Washington originally as a jock, and again had that passion for sports, as those of us who are sports nuts do, and talked his way into the U of Maryland football job in the somewhere in the 70s, and he still does it.
He also wrote an interesting autobiography a couple of years ago.
Yes, that was the first time we had met. I think it's From Rock to Jock. Must have published it 15 years ago or so. Managed to meet him on his book tour. We became fast friends and still keep in touch to this day. And in fact, Johnny was, I believe, the only member of the pre All News On Air staff to be invited to the Wins 50th anniversary banquet back in 2015.
He was a pretty hot jock back like 67 to 69, 70 at KYA when Avco Broadcasting owned it.
Yes. And he was also the offstage announcer on Hullabaloo. If you go,
that's right,
go through the DVDs or some of the episodes that are up on the up on YouTube, and you hear that enthusiastic, boyish offstage voice saying, "Tonight on Hullabaloo, Gary Lewis and the Playbook." That's Johnny Holiday.
That was a great show.
The same Johnny Holiday. And if you hear him doing, today is Friday, so if you pop up your radio onto whatever station carries U of M football, you'll hear him tomorrow. That same voice. And he's terrific.
People that love it. And no, Bob Craig, who's the fellow that's been on the air forever down in Norwich? He doesn't stop.
Oh, Stu Breyer.
Since what year?
Well, Stu Breyer actually replaced me when I left ICH to come to DRC. So that would be 1970. So that would be what, 55 years?
Bless him. Yeah. He still loves it. Still loves it. Well, before we get out of here, I want to just, we have 3 guys that did join us, and I'm going to wrap it up, but I wanted to say thank you to Dave, who's been telling me that it's time to wrap it up. And stop by just the last couple of minutes to say, you got to get out, Steve. And Dave Nagel, how you doing, Dave?
Very good, thank you. It's funny to hear Bob mention Stu Breyer. Stu replaced Stu. I followed Stu for 3 years in Afternoon Drive. He was the music director. I'd come in, I'd have to clean all the records because he'd eat lunch over them and have crumbs everywhere. So a fond memory of Stu. God bless him. He's awesome. He's still there on the air. My brother was just on his show a couple of weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, he's still on ICH middays.
And he's still tied to the guy that did the lunchtime routine with,
Yeah, only he's actually living it every day there. So there's nothing like tofu on 45s.
And Dick Call, did you get your puppy all polished up there? Did you take your TV to grooming?
Yes, indeed. I would have been back here earlier, but I'm sorry I didn't get the link. I thought maybe I'd said something last time, but we never cleaned lunch off the records when we had a change in day parts. We just simply had to scrape the grass off and resell it.
WPLR.
Free to the 7th caller.
Yes, we always used to say, "Hey, did you remember that?"
No.
Oh my God. Well, I want to thank you guys. As I say, we can stay backstage for a while if you like. I gotta, Dave is that constant reminder. So Dave, thanks for stopping by.
I'm here for that reason,
Yep.
just to make sure you get off on time.
Yep, I know. And I want to, I really want to just remind everybody, no matter which way you lean, to the left or lean to the right, if you get a chance, check out the podcast for Just Another Day. Jim and Bill, they do a great job over there every single day with Jim Harrington. And so if you get a chance to check that out on podcast, it's certainly worth it. And also want to thank everybody who's been supporting the Broadcasters Foundation of America. If you need help, that's definitely a place to turn. A lot of times we have a hard time asking for help. If you turn to them, they might be able to give you some direction. And, you know, I think the lottery here was up to like 1.7 billion. So if you trip over a couple of few bucks, you might want to pass it their way. But yeah, it means a lot. Also, the Connecticut Broadcasters Association is going to be having their dinner that's going to be coming up in October sometime. We're going to go over there and we're going to stand out front, hold up some placards and protest. And I can say that.
Congratulations to frequent visitor contributor Danny Lyons for being named to the Connecticut Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
Well, I think it's he's been slugging that out for a long time. So yeah, Danny,
38 years at the same place. Yeah.
Holy Toledo. And I want to thank everybody who's been on today's show. John Landry, Pete Salant, Bill Rock, Ed Bruder, Bob Craig, Bob Marks, also known as Bart Mazzarella, Ron Pell, Dave Nagel, Barry Berman, Mike McCann. Welcome, Mike. Good to see you after you were away a few weeks. We thought might have scared you away, but it's nice to see you back. Tracy Carmen, Lee Gordon, Jim Harrington, Jim Coulter. Jim, hope you won't be a stranger. Hope you enjoyed it. This was your first time. So
yeah, this was awesome, man. A virgin no longer.
Yeah, please. You put up with a lot of stuff. We appreciate you coming by and sharing it with us. And Dave Overson and Dick Calt sliding in there. And I want to, you guys are terrific. And we're going to do the show again on next Friday, which will be the 19th of the, oh my gosh.
Oh, well, it'll be the 12th.
Oh, no, that's right. I'm here. Yeah, I'll be here. 19th and the 26th. We're going to have to discuss that. I'm going to see if I can make it in from Italy. That'll be exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'll still here for that. All right. So from Berlin, Connecticut, that's going to do it for this edition of Radio Friends again. Steve Parker. Catch you next time.
Thank you, Steve, and good to see everybody.
Your friends, Radio Friends again. Radio Friends again. We've got a lot to share.